Hey, this is Rick Kasalj from exercisesforinjuries.com. Today I have another interview for you, and it's with Samantha, and I'll get Samantha to introduce herself, and then we'll get into the interview.
Awesome. Hi there, Rick. Thanks for
Hey,
having
Samantha.
me. For everyone out there, my name is Samantha Gladish. I am a online nutritionist, and I specialize in weight loss and women's hormonal health. And I use delicious food to help women balance their hormones and achieve their weight loss goals.
Awesome. Now, when I was kind of doing research for the interview, I kind of saw that you went on a bit of a wellness journey. So maybe you can kind of share your story on how food and nutrition kind of led you on a wellness journey and led you to kind of where you're at now.
Absolutely. As a young girl, I was always really innately interested in food and nutrition. And I was really lucky that I grew up in a household where my mother basically made everything from scratch. My mother's Portuguese, my father's Canadian. He's the one that introduced her to fast food and burgers. My mom didn't even have a burger until the first time. I think she was 19 by the time she had a burger. So she was, and that was her upbringing, right? Everything came from scratch. Everything was from the garden. Everything was really fresh. And so that's what my upbringing was until I got into my teens.
Yeah.
You start to be really influenced by your friends and what they're eating and cafeteria food, and you have more freedom in sort of your life, and you're kind of going out for lunch, and you just eat poorly, and you don't have a lot of money when you're a teenager. So you're like, oh, okay, $5 can get me like this juice and a slice of pizza. Like, you don't really know the connection between food and your body really at that age, right? And so there's such a big disconnect. And so even though I grew up with healthier habits, those pretty much died hard when I was in my teenage years. And then that's really when I started to suffer with a lot of digestive issues. I had a lot of issues going on with my cycle at the time. And like most young girls and most women in general, you go to the doctor with issues with your cycle, and the first thing they say is, well, here's the birth control pill, and it's going to solve everything, right? And, the birth control pill seems like this magical pill that's really going to be the problem solver, but unfortunately it causes you to lose your hair, and it can really dry out your skin. And when you get off of it, nobody tells you that you're going to have even more hair loss and digestive issues, and you're going to be nutrient depleted, and you're going to break out like crazy. So I kind of went through that whole array of health problems for quite some time, trying to get my hormones back on track after getting off the birth control, because I was on it for about 7 or 8 years. And then, getting my nice, clear, beautiful skin back, and getting my hair growth back, and really healing my digestive system. So that was kind of a lot of the issues that I was dealing with. And then I was really lucky that during that time, I had, there was a lot of people that came into my life who were studying nutrition, or they were studying Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine and homeopathics, and they were just kind of planting the seeds. And so I started to dive into these areas of health, and was just blown away by like how much you can heal yourself through food and, natural medicine. And so that's what I started to incorporate in my life to really heal my digestive system and to really balance my hormones. And then after that, I decided this is what I want to study, and then kind of the rest is history.
Awesome. So I know you do a lot with women, like you work with a lot with women. So maybe we can kind of chat about, and you kind of highlighted, I guess, a couple of them, kind of issues, even in your journey. But like, what are some most common women's health struggles that
Yeah.
you find like working with your clients?
There's a lot of them because we are so complex. um,
Yep.
and it's interesting because women really operate on a monthly cycle and men actually operate on a 24-hour cycle because they have a lot of fluctuations that happen with cortisol and testosterone, whereas women really do operate on this 30-day cycle of ovulation and getting their period and whatnot. We're very dynamic. so so common issues that I see with women, weight is probably the biggest one. I see a lot of women that come to me with wanting to lose weight, and weight, I mean, yes, that's an issue, but there's something deeper going on there, why women are struggling to lose weight. And oftentimes it can be issues with their thyroid. It can be issues with blood sugar imbalances and insulin, and most often also cortisol, which is your stress hormone, and stress in general. I mean, that's probably, aside from the weight issues, stresses are probably the biggest thing that I hear. And even though women will often say to me, no, I'm not really stressed, once I really dive into what their day-to-day looks like, what their health looks like, what their sleep looks like, how they're reacting to things in their life, it's pretty evident that, yes, you're stressed. And so thyroid issues, weight issues, insulin issues. There's a lot of women that come to me with issues going on with their cycle, and maybe they have polycystic ovarian syndrome, and a lot of infertility as well. So that's kind of like sort of the gamut of what I deal with and what I often see.
Okay. And looking at kind of what you highlighted, that like the female cycle is based upon 30 days and the men's cycle is on roughly 24 hours, it kind of leads into like hormones. And I know when I was doing some research before the interview, was a lot of work that you end up doing ends up being dealing with hormonal imbalances. So how would someone know, or what are some of the symptoms of someone being imbalanced hormonally?
Yes, well, the reason we function really at the end of the day is because of our hormones. And so, especially for women, it's almost very easy to see if you have hormonal issues going on because we have a cycle every 30 days, right? So that's probably one of the first areas to pay attention to is, do you actually have a regular cycle? Are you even ovulating? A lot of women will have, just prior to their period, they will have a lot of issues going on with like cramping and headaches and a lot of this sort of pre-period pain. And oftentimes as women, we think that that's normal, like that's just supposed to happen every month, but that's actually not the case. That's a sign that something is off in your system, that there's some type of potentially nutrient deficiency, potentially estrogen dominance that's going on, where you have too much estrogen in your system compared to progesterone, and it's leading to a lot of these symptoms. So women can really sort of gauge what their cycle looks like. Even women who have a really, really heavy flow, or who have a lot of pain in their abdomen. Sometimes they have cysts that are developing, which can lead to, polycystic ovarian syndrome. So there's a lot of signs that we need to pay attention to, because that's really going to give us an idea that, hey, something's not right here. So it's really important to connect with your body and not just kind of brush it off as, oh yeah, this is normal for me. I experience this every month. This is what's supposed to happen. And then, even looking like just your overall lifestyle, like how are you eating? Do you find that you're like hungry every 2 hours all the time and you always need food? Do you have a lot of sugar cravings going on? Do you have a lot of stress going on in your life? Do you find you're, fatigued every single day? What's your sleep cycle look like? Do you actually have a good sleep cycle? Do you fall asleep easily? Do you wake up in the middle of the night? Are you waking up with energy in the morning? There's so many things to pay attention to, because all of those issues, if you have those issues going on, that's a sign that something's off. It's a sign that your blood sugar and your insulin levels can be off, or mismanaged. It can be a sign that your cortisol is high because you got a lot of stress going on in your life. And especially if you're not sleeping really well, oftentimes you will have higher insulin and higher cortisol levels. So, yeah, lots of things.
Okay. Okay. No, so it ends up being lots. There ends up being like lots of things that kind of highlight or can be signs and symptoms of hormonal imbalance. Now, what would be some solutions? So we kind of like, what would be some simple and fast hormonal health hacks that people could do to kind of have an impact on balancing out their hormones?
Sure. So the first place I always like to start is food, because we're all going to eat every day. And more often than not, we're not going to want to skip our meals because so many of us do love our food. So it's important that, if you're trying to balance out your hormones, it doesn't really make much sense to eat food that has antibiotics and hormones in it. So I always say, I get that buying organic can be expensive, but if you can find that extra $20 to $30 a week, put it towards better quality animal products, because that's where you're going to often find a lot of the antibiotics and the hormones. So, and you're going to find oftentimes too, like a lot of genetically modified feed with a lot of those animals. So that's going to have an impact on your hormonal health. So doesn't make sense if we want to balance our hormones to ingest antibiotics and hormones from food. So that would be a really good place to start. Really clean up sort of the animal products if you do eat them, and get good organic local sources. If you're eating meat, try and get the pasture raised, grass-fed, high quality. That would be really, really important. And then, so aside from food, look at your day-to-day. Look at your stress. Are you filling your schedule up with so many things? Are you, do you have boundaries in your life? Because this is really, really important, and it's something for myself that I have to pay attention to as well, especially as, an entrepreneur. I want to take on so many things, and I want to do so many things at once, and I can really get into like my creative zone where I just want to stay on the computer and write all day, and then it's like, oh my God, it's 11 o'clock at night, like I need to go to bed, So it's like you have to set these boundaries in your lifestyle, and slow down. So for me, I have to find what works for me, and that is shutting down the computer at 8 o'clock, putting the phone away. I don't touch technology after 8 o'clock. The lights are very dim in my house at after 8 o'clock, because we don't want to stimulate, because we want to support melatonin, so we don't want to stimulate the brain, and melatonin is going to help us fall asleep at night. So that's really essential. Are you saying yes to everything in life? I mean, there's probably times where you want to say no, but you end up saying yes because you want to be the nice person, right? And please everybody. So, and then you end up filling your schedule, and the whole month goes by and you're like, oh my God, that was crazy. I had no downtime for myself or my family. So it's really creating these boundaries in your life. Shut down the technology earlier. Find time in your day for you, whether that be like a hot bath at night, or time to just sit and read for an hour, or maybe you love to, draw or write or whatever it might be, but take that time, a little bit in the morning and a little bit at night, and really take that time for yourself. Because it's very easy to wake up in the morning, check your emails, get caught up on the phone, and then now you got to rush out the door. You don't even have time to make breakfast. You're off to work. You're dealing with deadlines at work. Oh my God, you got to come home and deal with kids. And the day just goes by so fast. So you have to really set those boundaries for yourself, and when you're going to slow down and give yourself, time for you. And then, so we've got the food, we've got the stress management part, and then sleep. So essential. Your body repairs itself when it sleeps. It regenerates itself when it sleeps. You actually produce, human growth hormone when you sleep, which is like a super potent anti-aging antioxidant. So we really want to be able to produce that. And we we manage our cortisol levels and our insulin levels when we sleep. And both cortisol and insulin, those are fat storing hormones. So if you're not sleeping effectively, there's a really good chance that you're going to have more issues with blood sugar imbalances and weight gain. So the sleep is really, really, really essential. Between 10 to 2 a.m. or about 11 to 2 a.m., that's like the optimal ideal time to get really good deep REM sleep. So for those of you who are watching Game of Thrones at like 1 in the morning, you got to turn it off and you got to go to bed. Yeah. Is that you? That's you, Rick, isn't it?
I mean, it's the truth.